a newcomer to Canada, finding a job can be really, really tough. It is such a critical milestone to achieve, but really, really tough. You might not have the network. Employers might not value anything but Canadian experience. And there could be some subtle cultural cues that you're missing as you walk through that job search and the interview in particular. The nonprofit PeaceGeeks is trying to solve for some of those challenges. It has created a virtual AI-driven career coach to help people find jobs and be more successful in the process to land that job. Jennifer Freeman is the CEO of PeaceGeeks. She joins us now from Victoria, British Columbia. Hello there.
Hi, Bruce. Great to be back on Moolala.
I have tried the virtual career coach and I loved it. I spent most of my time preparing for job interviews, which was both super inspiring and also totally humbling. Before we talk about my experience, I want to step back to have you talk a bit about the why. Why was this needed? How did it come to be?
Yeah, well, thanks. Exactly what you just said. Anytime you move to a new country, one of the most important things to establish yourself, to be able to put a roof over your head, to be able to get food on the table, is to have income coming in. And so for so many of us, that is through a job. And when you move to a new country, breaking into the job market, trying to find a path either back into the career that you had in the country where you came from, or to find perhaps your first job, can be exponentially harder. Again, the lack of personal and professional networks, weeding through the myriad of social and cultural cues that exist in a new country. There's just so much to navigate. And oftentimes you don't necessarily have a person or a network or friends that you can go to help you figure out those kind of nuances and break into a profession.
There are three aspects: search for jobs, practice for interviews, and assess your skills. I want to start with the search. Why do we need help in that regard? There's a gazillion job search websites out there. Don't they do the job?
Not when you add in all the additional considerations that newcomers have. So for example, depending on your immigration status, when you come to Canada, in order to qualify for a path to citizenship, many newcomers are in a situation where they need to get points in order to be able to qualify. So when you're looking for a job, you actually need to be able to find a job that has a national occupation classification, or what we call NOC, that then gives you a certain number of points. And I've had people even on my team at PeaceGeeks who thought that they were fortunate enough to get a job. They're working in their profession for 1 or 2 years, only to find that when they go to apply for permanent residency and eventually citizenship, that actually their title didn't correspond to an NOC code, and it was all for nothing. They have to start again from scratch. So not all job sites are created equal. Finding something that has things that are relevant to the newcomer journey didn't exist on the market, so we created it.
Second part is about interview practice. So I'll tell you how I did it, and then you fill in the gap. So I chose a particular job to interview for, and then it basically started to conduct a job interview. The two things that were in the AI-driven experience, it was all on text, as you know, was one, here's how I could make my answer better, which I was both excited by and insulted by, because I'm sure my answer was perfect, but whatever. But second, it wove in some cultural context of things that as a newcomer to Canada, I might not know that in Canada, you actually kind of do it this way. Tell us more about, I only did that a couple of times. If I were to do it 100 times, I'm sure I'd get a sense for the full experience. But what else should people know about what they could expect on the interview prep part?
Yeah, well, that's the feature in the virtual career coach that has AI really built in and where we're using it to its maximum potential. So we have taken a paid AI model, so it's not learning from people. So confidentiality and kind of privacy was front of mind for us. And so the interview itself, we trained and gave the AI parameters to say, be supportive. Give Bruce feedback on what he needs to improve.
Yeah.
So the entire tone of the conversation is supposed to be supportive. It's supposed to give those cultural insights and relevant feedback for you so that you can better prepare for an interview. It's not just whether or not you can convey your skills, right? Like anytime
Yeah.
you've interviewed somebody for a job, you're trying
Yeah.
to see, what's this person going to be like to work with?
Yeah.
And when you're doing that in a new culture and oftentimes also in a new language, there's a lot more at play than just communicating your skills. So the AI.
How on earth did you train the AI to layer in culture? So I made it like some,
Yeah.
smarty answer in my text interview, and it very graciously and supportively said, "In Canada, we don't do that. We do this." How on earth do you train AI to do that?
Ask my team. They give it prompts. They give, like when you go to just kind of an open LLM model,
Yeah.
the better the answer is dependent on the detail nature of the
Okay.
question. So my team trained it to say, hey, when you get asked a question like this, say this, don't say this,
Right.
use this tone, don't be
Right.
a jerk.
It's also a pretty remarkable tool for anybody, newcomers or not, because it just keeps throwing at what I saw were behavioral type questions. Like, give me an example of. Does it also get into the realm, if I stayed with it a long enough time? Are there situational questions in there too? Like, what would you do if?
Yes. Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's a bit of both. And like you said, the more times you do it and the more information that you give the interview coach, the better it'll be at being able to guide you through an interview. So you don't have to just put the title that you're going for. You can drop an entire job description in there with the
Wow.
company that you're thinking of applying to, and it will continue to personalize your interview with that information.
We're talking
And
about the PeaceGeeks virtual career coach here. Jennifer, you're going to make another point.
yeah, well, I was just going to say, you also mentioned that it was text-based. I don't know how recently you went, but we've just also started adding in voice to voice because, of course, that's what we usually do when we do interviews, is speak
Right.
to somebody, and we're training the model to also be able to speak
Oh my
back to you
God.
so that you
Amazing.
can have a full conversation as you practice for an interview.
I didn't try that. I have to go back. The third bucket is around assessing skills. What's the objective with that part?
So right now we have, if people register, you can use a lot of the features in the virtual career coach for free without registering. But if you actually go to register and start looking for jobs, then we are in the process of taking not only a job listing that you can get, our API pulls from all of the existing big job sites out there, but it uses some proprietary API data that also maps the skills required for those jobs so that in the future, this is, good technology, keep building it, keep adding features that people need. One of the features that we're about to release this year is going to be for people to be able to upload their resume or to create a resume if they've never done that before. And the AI will help identify what skills you have in your experience and then match those skills to the jobs that are available so that if you come in and you know that you can't work in a profession that you've worked in before while you're waiting to perhaps get the Canadian credential for that or go back to school and get one more piece of certification to move forward, then in the process, while you're waiting, you can find all the jobs that you are already qualified to
Hmm.
do and apply for those while you're waiting.
Much of the job search is within the candidate's circle of control, much, but not all. The candidate is interviewing in a context in which the employer carries bias. There's racism, there's sexism, there's homophobia, there's also all those sorts of things. And even just the cliche, you don't have Canadian experience, therefore, dot, dot, dot. How does the tool address some of those aspects? If I search, what do I say when someone says I don't have Canadian experience? Or what do I say when I can't get anybody to click on my resume because my name isn't John Smith?
Yeah. Well, right now the tool does certain things towards that. Like you said, there's Canadian soft skills. There's a quiz in there that you can do to help have more appropriate answers for the Canadian context. But I think the bigger question you're getting at, Bruce, is how do we better prepare employers so that they are aware of how to assess skills and experience in a way that mitigates those implicit biases that we all carry, but that really create a profound barrier for newcomers. So in that respect, we're working with some partners, both across the border in the US and others that are in the process of really pushing the bleeding edge of what generative AI is going to be able to do. And working with those organizations that are working on the advocacy and employer training side to do some really cool things where, people who've gone to the University of Kabul and gotten an engineering degree there, the AI can match that school to the equivalent in a North American context, so that at an employee applicant tracking system, they can see right away, okay, well, I don't know anything about the University of Kabul. What does that degree actually mean? Oh, well,
Right.
it's equivalent to X.
Okay. A tool this robust was not free to develop. Where did you get your money? Did you mortgage your own house? Were you selling cookies?
No, as a nonprofit, fortunately, we're not in the realm of having to sell our own homes to do it. We were sponsored by a global grant from Accenture, the global consulting firm. So after we won the UN Intercultural Innovation Award in 2021, we started working with them. They've been fantastic long-term supporters of our work. And so they provided a 3-year grant for us to be able to develop and market that virtual career coach to newcomers across Canada.
Congratulations on your launch. And now I am not on a job hunt and hopefully won't be maybe ever again, but I'm going to recommend it far and wide because it really is great. Jennifer, thank you for your time. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much, Bruce. Always a pleasure.
Jennifer Freeman, the CEO of PeaceGeeks. She was here to talk about the launch of their virtual career coach for newcomers.